Welcome back to the channel. You know the brand P&Z Life Coaching. You know the man, Coach Mike James, and I'm back again with another amazing interview, impactful conversations. So impactful conversations was a way for me to reach out to people who are making impact, to have deeper conversations about the things that truly matter. And I'm excited, as I always say, about every interview, every chance I have to sit down and talk with someone who's doing amazing, whether it's Black business booming or impactful conversations. So this is no different this time, and I'm excited about my guest today, and excited to bring the information. So, Brother Wess, Judge Wess, this is what I like to do. I like to tell people, if you were getting introduced for that Nobel Peace Prize, or the biggest honor you can think of, I like to say, you send in your bio and everything, and you have your write up. But I like to give it to my guests to say, how would you introduce yourself, right, if you were accepting that honor or you were on the biggest stage you can imagine? I just want you to take a moment and just introduce yourself to the people, to the audience, and let them know who you are.
Right, right. If I had to tell people who I am today, the first thing I would mention is that I'm a Christian, and everything that I do uh, is I try to put God first, put spirituality first, try to make sure that that's at the forefront of all that I do, because I want people to see Jesus Christ, in me. And it's a daily work. It took me a long time to get to where I am today. It's been a rocky road. Not been perfect in all that I've done, but I've worked hard. I continue to work hard. I continue to not give up. And God has blessed me, and I've gotten further than I ever thought that I would in life.
I love that. I love that. Is that identity, putting that identity forward. Um,
Mm.
so I, I want to go back, because we're gonna talk about Judge Everett Wess.
Okay.
But before that, where I like to start with impactful conversations is, for a moment, if you were to take people to the beginning, talk a
Right.
little bit briefly to the audience about your early life and upbringing.
Okay. Uh, is I grew up pretty close to Mobile, Alabama. Just right outside of Mobile, Alabama, down on the coast, and four siblings. A blue collar family. My father, he worked blue collar jobs, worked for the shipyard, uh, and I was the oldest of five children. And I don't think college was really on the radar, and going through school and high school. Um, but I went out during the summers, and I did some hard work with carpenters and brick masons, and even went to where my dad worked, which was at a shipyard, and just decided I did not want to do that. I did not know what I wanted to do, but I knew I didn't want to, do that type of work. So I started out going to a little college called Selma University down in Selma, Alabama, and I played trombone from seventh grade up until 2 years in college. And all I knew, I played in the band throughout junior high school and college. So I thought I'd go to college, and they asked, "What do you want to major in?" And I played the trombone and had a band scholarship, went to college free for 2 years, and majored in music education there at Selma University. Uh, and that was a great environment for me, because I was 17 years old when I finished high school, because my birthday was in July. So we graduated in
Mm.
May, and there I am so I was really on, the end of being, a little young and going to college. I thought, as I look back at it, in retrospect, and went through that process. And while that first 2 years, I started looking at, different areas, what is engineering? What is computer science? What happens if I majored in biology? And I thought I'd get into some technical field. after I left junior college. So I went ahead and finished junior college with an associate's degree in music education. And then I looked at two schools, in particular, Tuskegee and Alabama A&M. And Alabama A&M had a computer science program, and I went to Alabama A&M and decided to major in music education, which put me back with the freshmen. But
Right.
I was able. It took me an extra year and a half to finish my degree in computer science and mathematics, uh, because I had taken no classes those first 2 years that would qualify or give me credit in the computer field. And I looked at Huntsville, and it was a space and defense industry, so there were a lot of engineering and computer jobs. So I finished the degree in computer science and began working in Huntsville with some contractors. So I worked 17 years in Huntsville, uh, maintaining software on missile systems for the United States Army Missile Command, which is Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama.
Mhm.
And I worked on some NASA contracts maintaining software for mission support in some instances. So I did that for 17 years. While in Huntsville, I went back to graduate school and received an MBA. Uh, and, I continued to work in the space and defense industry, and I began teaching as an adjunct professor in the evenings for Faulkner University. And I taught business and computer courses, uh, and then moved to Birmingham, Alabama, where I began working in private industry with Bell South, which is today AT&T.
Mhm.
And I maintain Unix and database systems for them and a company called Bank Tech, which develops software and hardware for payment processing just all over the country. So I worked with them for a little bit. But at that time, we were working from home, with internet connections, and I had pagers and was providing customer service, through the computer, and had a little office set up at my home. And I'd be at home, and I saw a commercial come on TV saying, you can keep your day job and attend the Birmingham School of Law.
Mhm.
And I thought that would be interesting just to, I had a good job, earning a good income, had done more than I ever thought I'd do in life. My parents were proud of me. Um, my siblings were proud of me. And I just thought I'd go back to law school for the educational aspect. And I entered law school, and the first day they asked, if you are planning on practicing law, raise your hand. And I did not raise my hand. They asked, well,
Mhm.
Mr. West, why are you here? I said, well, I'm just here I was always curious about the law. And I
Right.
took I took the MBA class, and we took a business law class. So that kind of piqued my interest. I got an A out of that class, by the way. And so went through the program and finished uh, law school. And they said, well, are you going to take the bar? I said, well, I might as well. I finished law school in 3
Right.
years. So
Might as well. Did this
yeah,
time.
no, I studied the bar, studied, a bar review, and finished law school in 3 years. And then I took the bar that summer, and I passed the bar and went to the mailbox one day, and they said, you are authorized to practice law in the state of Alabama. And I mean, it was somewhat hilarious because, I mean, here's a car driving, you know,
Right.
and, I'm working in the computer field, programming software and maintaining systems and taking care of my clients all over the country uh, with bank tech at that time, payment processing. And, I just I knew absolutely nothing really about practicing law. And so I said, well, I'll just go down to the courthouse and sit and watch these lawyers and see what they do. And I went and sat and introduced myself to the judges, and I found that they appointed lawyers to individuals who could not afford a lawyer on the criminal law side.
Mhm.
And as I sat and listened and went through a few of the cases, it began hitting me. I saw a lot of white lawyers representing, indigent, poor African American defendants. And I began to ask myself, can I make a difference? Can I make a difference in life? More so giving my all, you know, to my people who are caught up in the
Right.
system, or, should I continue to eat, earn a decent living, programming these computer systems, but, in the end you die, and what have you really done in life? So I transitioned over about a year, and I decided that I would practice law. And it was kind of scary because I had a good six-figure income, but I kind of got into it and had a theory that, well, if you are the individual that got yourself in a position where you were maintaining software, you are the person who can get yourself in a position where you can earn an equal or better salary, in the field of law. You're just changing, areas of practice, so to speak.
Mm. Mhm.
And the first year was kind of rocky, but after that, I probably financially, earned a living equivalent or better than I did in the computer technology field. So
Wow.
23 years later, I'm still here. So 17 years in IT and 23 years in the practice of law, and I'm
I
still
was just
standing.
gonna say it's amazing that start and seeing now
Uh-huh.
West Law Firm 23 years later, you're
Right,
still here.
right,
So,
right, right.
man, thank you so much for that, brother. Just that I don't know if you saw me. I was writing some things down because another reason why I love having these conversations because it's
Hmm.
inspiration. Some things I heard there, which is amazing. Curiosity. I teach coaching classes for life coaches to getting certified, and one of the things I always say is curiosity cures the coach.
Hmm.
So you led to that curiosity. You were just sitting doing your thing and saw a commercial. You chased that work since the very beginning. You started talking about how you was working when you were young and realizing early on I didn't want to do what my dad was doing, but work research, proper research, even when you got to that point. One of the first things you said, I went into the courtroom and just watched these lawyers desire to achieve. Because though that was nothing that you had in mind, maybe a year before that, didn't go to school for that, you achieve, you pass, all of this happened. And then the last two that I really, that jumped out to me, I wrote down was opportunity and representation. You saw that that was a lack of representation. And early on, I can only imagine that you being from a larger family and you Selman University, Alabama A&M, that desire to represent for your people has always been there and instilled in you. So I love that journey of being there. And like you said, here we are 23 years later, you're still standing. So
Right.
when you think about that, Judge West, what were some of the most impactful moments for you at any time, whether it was growing up or just in your professional life? What were some of the most impactful moments that stand out to you as you think about that today?
Uh, my parents were there. They were tough and a little bit too tough, I thought. And in some instances, uh, I was the oldest of five, so I knew I needed to get out, and my parents were not able to at that time to continue to support me. So I knew I needed to get out on my own and figure out, how to support myself uh, early on. And, we just had work ethic and desire and drive, and didn't necessarily know the proper direction to go in, but just had enough to keep going and figure it out over a period of time. So, and I tell a lot of people, I spent 5 years and a half in college, working on getting the computer science degree, and you're supposed to finish college in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a little longer, and I knew it would take me a little longer when I changed majors. But in the end, it was worth it. I was a little bit of a late bloomer, and maybe some people gave up on me early on within that first. Well, Everett, shouldn't you be finished, with college yet? I should be, but I'm here with these freshmen and having such a good time. We just gonna we'll delay it a little bit. But
Right.
no, it just took me time to get more computer technology credits under my belt.
Mm.
And just stick to it and keep working. And I did run into some good professors along the way. I like to credit that. Selma University,
Mm-hmm.
I just remember a lady named Miss Clayton that taught English literature, and she was very encouraging. She's just one of these old strict teachers that you think of, with the ruler in
Yeah.
hand. We were like junior college students, we'd sit up in class. We were afraid of her. We knew we had to do our work, and then going to Alabama A&M, I think it allowed me to mature and grow. It was a smaller college, than in Alabama or some other places. So they were able to give us a little more attention, I think, in some of the classes. The professors were able to spend a little more time with us, and then some of those professors will point out, well, Everett, you kind of have a handle on this, and that would be encouraging. And I'm like, well, I don't know what I've never done, never thought about majoring in math, but here I am taking these, calculus one, calculus two, calculus three, differential equations. And I look back at that and I'm like, wow, because I was not prepared
Mm.
to go through that coming out of high school. But they were patient, gave me extra time and extra work and side work so that I could catch up. And so I credit the HBCU, the smaller uh, institution of Alabama A&M. And then we just had people there who just cared.
Mm.
And that helped me to get to where I was before I attended the Birmingham School of Law. So when I was at A&M, I felt like a big fish in a smaller pond.
All right.
And then when I went to law school, I was just a big fish in a different ocean, in a bigger ocean, but it didn't matter. I was a big fish by then because Alabama A&M had gotten me to the point where I had the confidence I needed to do whatever. I felt like I could go anywhere and do anything. Start
Love
here,
that.
go anywhere. That's their thing.
Yeah, that's right. I love it.
That's true.
It's amazing. I think you said impactful. When I was talking about those impactful moments, I think that's impact too. When you can remember those things, right?
Hmm.
That carry on with you throughout life. So, in thinking about that, as an adult, as you sit in your fullness today, being that big fish, I love that too, because I tell people all the time, don't dim your light. The world
Hmm.
will dim your light enough. If you're a big fish, own that.
Hmm.
So, as an adult today, what is your idea of impact, or what does it mean to you? The word when I say that impact.
When you say impact, I think about the things that I need to do to help others,
Mm,
who look like me, who were in the position that I was in coming up. So I do that. I volunteer as much as I can. I bring in inner city youth as much as I can. I'm a board member of an organization called Child Haven, which is based out of Cullman, Alabama. But they bring in young girls from all over the state of Alabama who do not have parents or are having trouble at home at no fault of their own, but they bring these young girls in and give them house parents and take care of them and send them to school and give them an opportunity to go to college. Um, so that's meaningful and impactful, to me. I'm a board member of an organization called Legacy Works, and they cater to bringing in inner city youth here out of the Birmingham area. They take them to Disney World. They would not normally have that opportunity, maybe. They take them to Six Flags. I brought in lawyers and police officers and judges, and we spent like a day with them, talking about how to interact, with police and letting them meet police officers and talk to police officers and learn that police officers are men and women who have families, who have children, you know, uh, they're people, they're human, just like you are. But if a police officer stops you, these are the things that you ought to do, as an African American young male to make sure you get through those encounters in a positive way. We have mock trials, where we write little scripts, and they're innocent kids. And I remember our last mock trial we had here at my office. They came in and said, "Oh, we hate the police. We don't like the police." And we had police officers, and we had one police officer who had a son who was a police officer, and that kind of humanized these guys. The police officers for the young inner city male, he's a father, his father has a son, and they're people, and you can touch them and talk to them and communicate with them. And so we put together a criminal law scenario for these young men, and we were thinking, the judges, the lawyers, we taught a group of them to be how to be the defense lawyers. Another group was the prosecutors. Another group, we had 12 that were the jurors. And we taught another couple of them to be judges in this mock trial. And it was a little shoplifting incident. And, we, the adults, the lawyers, the judges, the prosecutors who were teaching the kids, well, they're going to let them off because they hate the police. But they were harder. I mean, they found the shoplifters guilty, like easily, unanimously, quickly. And I'm like, I thought you guys didn't like the police and didn't trust the police, or because we had police witnesses, mock witnesses and things like that. They said, yeah, but he stole that and he shouldn't have done that. That's not right. So even though these kids, we learned something as adults. So even though they come out of the inner city hard times and sort of have this negative connotation with police officers, they expect for us, they expect for their peers to do what's right. And if not, they're gonna hold their own peers accountable. And we were kind of surprised going through that scenario. Uh, but these are the type of impacts and the type of things that we have,
Yeah.
on these young kids. And when finishing up, some of them said, I think I want to go to college. I might want to become a lawyer,
Mm-hmm. All
and
right.
they never seen themselves, being that. And we give that opportunity. I never had that opportunity. I had an opportunity to go do some brick masonry, and I knew it was hot and hard work.
Oh
And
yeah.
I had an opportunity to go do some carpentry work, as a teenager. And I knew there was some hard work and hot, and you're on top of a roof and you might fall. And I knew I didn't want to do that. But we try to give opportunities that some of these children would not necessarily have. And that's
Yeah.
how we impact society
I
and make a
love that.
difference and make a change.
Yeah. That's awesome because I think it's also exposure is so huge. Exposure is huge when you don't know, if you've never heard of anything or see how the inner workings of a court works, you don't know. So you have assumptions there. So I love that. So I'm at this point now where I talk in the interview about what, if anything, you're working on professionally that has an impact on community. And so for you and what you do, um, as a public servant and as a judge. So I want you to kind of take it twofold in what you're doing right now. And if I got this correct, you're the municipal judge for Midfield.
Municipal court judge for the city of Mitchfield for more than
Okay.
6 years now.
Okay.
That is correct.
Awesome. All right. So talk to me a little bit about what you do in terms of being a municipal court judge. What does that entail in terms of even how that makes impact to the community at large?
Well, right now we have uh, courts, at night for the city of Midfield, and use the traffic court and misdemeanors, things like that. Now, if murders and serious crimes and felonies, things like that, they go over to the county. But what I try to bring, and I think I have brought to Midfield over the last 6 years, is fairness. I treat people, defendants as people. I treat the lawyers as people, prosecutors, the defense lawyers, uh, and I don't necessarily believe that jail is always the first uh, thing that we need to try to do with people. We're all people.
Mm-hmm.
We're all human. I don't think humans were originally uh, designed by God to be placed in a cage.
Mm-hmm.
So that image bothers me. But I have had a couple of individuals, they just would not follow my orders, 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 and I try to get their attention by putting them in the city jail for just enough time to get their attention and try to redirect them into what they need to be doing. um but the clerks, I ran into one lady, after court. She said, "Judge, you found me guilty on that case, but you were fair and you were kind, you were nice, even though, I was found guilty of what the officer said I did." And that means a lot to me because this was a person, just like I'm a person, and I want to treat people the way that I would want to be treated, you know, if I was in court.
Love that. And that I think for the most part, depending on what position, any position that you sit in, I think that goes back to integrity,
Mm-hmm.
having some integrity about the position that you hold. And I always say, that title, because no one can outdo you at being you. The
Yes, sir.
title is either given or earned, but it's still you at the end of the day. And like I was talking about earlier, that representation. So now what we have coming up is uh, a very important election. So
Mm-hmm.
for you running for probate judge, right, for Jefferson County.
That is correct.
Okay. So for that person watching that says, okay, well, I heard a little bit about it and I like Judge Wess. I like his personality. I love his background. Tell the audience what that means, probate judge, a little bit about that. And for that person that says, well, why should I give you my vote? Right. That for that person that says, I don't know, well, why should they
Mm-hmm.
turn out in the importance of that election? I guess starting first with what that is to be a probate judge for Jefferson County.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I knew what probate law was more than 23 years ago. Um, But as I mentioned before, I started going to the courtroom, watching, looking, and I started doing a lot of probate law early on, and I would get appointments to help individuals who had mental health conditions. I was appointed guardian ad litem to represent, the alleged mentally ill person, to make sure that their rights were not trampled on. Sometimes I was appointed to represent the family members or the petitioner who said, my family member or my friend needs some help. And, we want to file this petition and want to file it so that you can help them get the help that they need. So I did a lot of that work. I started working estates. The county administrator at that time, his name was Roy King, and he asked the judge, "Well, I need a young lawyer to help me out on some of these cases." And he's, "Oh, Everett Wess, he's been practicing for 2 or 3 years and seemed to be excited about what he's doing." And he brought me in, and I started working some estate cases with the county administrator, and then began drafting last will and testaments out of my own office and learning a little bit more about probating estates. Um, so the county administrator in the for Jefferson County, he's over all the states where there are no uh, other person to serve, as administrator for whatever reason. So it was a good job. I get to go to the safe deposit boxes, and we find money and jewelry and things like that, and have to give an accounting and make sure that these assets were preserved and divided among the heirs if there were any. Uh, Estates have to stay open for about 6 months. So there were instances. I remember one instance I had a red Corvette for about 6 months, and I went to the county administrator and I said, "Hey, I have this car. We have this car. Can I just keep it at home?" And he said, "Well, as the administrator, my job is to protect and preserve, the assets of the estate." He said, "If you want to keep it in your garage, you can keep it, and drive it on Sundays, and because the car doesn't do good just sitting there.
Mhm.
And are you properly insured?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, you can keep the car." So I drove around with a red Corvette, on Sundays for about 6 months, and I learned that I did not want to purchase a Corvette for myself. That thing drives like a
Right.
wagon, man. It's pretty, but it drives like a wagon. But but that was the fun part of it. But early on, I started learning about estates, and I went, "Hey, you know, again, African American people are not, we're dying, and we're not taking care of business. And these these estates, property, cars, jewelry, bank accounts, houses, real estate, land, they're getting caught up because Black people aren't preparing, you know, for death, and we're all gonna die."
Mm.
So I went to mom and dad. I said, "Mom, Dad, uh, do y'all have a last will and testament?" And they said, "No, no, son, no, son. Uh, but we got it, we got it. You just, if we die, you go down to the bank and we have it set up where we have 5 children, and they're just gonna divide everything among the 5 children." I said, "Okay." I said, "But I'm beginning to work in this area of probate law, and a lot of people are struggling, and there are family fights, and people aren't getting along, and it's just all kinds of problems that I'm seeing. So it might be a good idea if you went on and got a last will and testament." And, "Oh, it's under control." So a few years later, mom died, and my father could not get certain things done easily because they didn't have a last will and testament. And he said, "Son, my son's a lawyer. Everett, I can't get, these things done. Why not?" I said, "Dad, you remember when you and mom were healthy and everything was good, and you told me you had it, and I recommended that you generate a last will and testament?" He said, "Yes, I remember that." I said, well, this is why you can't get these things done. I said, now, do you have a last will and testament? He said, no. I said, well, I recommend you get a last will and testament so that we won't have to go through this, in the event you die before we do, the children. He said, okay, son, but draft one up for me. You're a lawyer. I said, Dad, I don't think that's a good idea because if I drafted your last will and testament, I have four siblings and they may make a claim that I have influenced you in some way. So get you an independent lawyer. I recommend you get a last will and testament generated and you can distribute your assets, in the way that you decide. You do whatever these are your things. Do whatever you want to do. And he did that. And when he died, we knew what his wishes were for the things that had to come into his estate. And that made it much easier.
Right.
So, and I tell that story to a lot of clients, and explaining the importance of getting your last will and testament done. And a lot of those come through probate court, and it's a lot easier when the decedent has in writing what they want done with their with their assets.
So for that person that hears the story and does not heed that advice, I'm gonna be prophetic here. When you sit in that seat as probate judge for Jefferson County, that's probably someone who would have to come in your court to say this didn't get done, didn't get done to the estate and all of that, and that's where they would handle that in probate court.
That is correct. Now, if you have a last will and testament, you get to tell, the courts how you want these assets distributed. If you don't generate a last will and testament, that's called intestate. With the last will and testament is testate. Without a last will and testament, it's called intestate. That means you died without a last will and testament. And then an administrator would be appointed. And the family member could qualify if they uh, uh, qualify and get the proper bond amount, which is like insurance to protect the estate. But a lot of times in the last will and testament, we put a clause in there that no bond is required, no inventory is required, just take in assets, pay the debts, and then distribute it to my heirs. But state law, dying intestate, will require you to go through a few more steps, and before you get the estate distributed among the heirs, and it costs more money to have to buy a bond. Takes more time to have to do an inventory. On down the line.
Okay, gotcha. So now, now clearly, again, we talked about this early. 23 years later, you still standing, you're still practicing from
Right.
all the way back to that. I'm not sure what I want to do, but I saw this ad on TV. It was interesting. So the question is not, do you know the law? Do you sit confidently in the seat that you sit in? But if I'm not mistaken, I think there you have three or four other candidates for this.
There are four candidates running
Okay.
for this position.
So four candidates running. So now, and I like this because you highlight this on your site. So for that person to follow that question and the definition and what it looks like, probate court. So now, why Judge Everett Wess? Why Tuesday should someone go in and say, "This is my choice to serve for Jefferson County Probate Court, probate
Okay.
judge"?
Before we get to that, let me say that probate court does some other things as well. We probate a lot of estates, but this is also the court where you will petition for adoptions.
Okay.
This is the court, and I mentioned this earlier, this is the court where you also file involuntary commitments when individuals are having mental health issues. You might file that petition in probate court. This is also the court where you will file guardianships and conservatorships. This can be for children or adults. Children can lose their parents and they may need letters of guardianship to, take care of that child. there may be some money that was left, if the parents lost, I mean, if the child lost both parents, well, then there will be a conservator appointed to take care of that child's money, until he becomes 18. Guardianships and conservatorships can also be, you can also petition the court for those for adults. So, in a lot of cases, there are elderly individuals who might have, Alzheimer's or dementia, and their health begins to decline. So they may need a guardian to be over them to take care of their person if they can't, and they may need a conservator to take care of their business and financial affairs. Sometimes they have retirement checks coming in, Social Security coming in, but the conservator would make sure that business and financial affairs that need to be taken care of are taken care of. This is the court where you will get your, fill out an application for your marriage license, where
Mm.
you will record your deeds. Some condemnation hearings are heard out of this court. So this is where you will fill out your name change applications. So this is also the position I'm running for, Probate One, is the chief elections officer of Jefferson County. So what that means is, yeah, he the county clerks, there's one in Bessemer, one in Birmingham division, and the sheriff work together to make sure that our elections uh, are free of chaos, make sure there's proper training, make sure there are enough ballots, make sure the ballots are generated, make sure we have polling places. But the probate judge is the chief elections officer, and he works along with the sheriff and the county clerks to make sure that the election process goes smoothly. So just Wednesday night, I went to a training class where the current probate judge, Judge Naftel, was training the clerks, what they could or could not do, how to use the machines, how to use the computers, how to sign people in, what happens if they come into the wrong polling place, how do you get them to the right polling place, how do you handle provisional ballots, how many feet should they stand away from the front door of the polling place, who can come into the polling place, how long you can stay there. Uh, and I was the only candidate for place one at that training session.
Mm.
So, you know, you run for probate judge and you want to take on the duties of the probate judge. One of those duties would be the chief elections officer. And, I just thought that was telling that no other candidate uh, showed up at that training session to kind of get a semblance or an idea of what this job would entail.
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for that because with where you just left off, I think the importance, and we see what has went on for the last few years in terms of elections,
Mm-hmm.
that is vitally important to our community and that's impactful as well. So I think that's, and I'm going to say I agree that it is telling that proper training. And that goes back to what I said earlier about you early on research. You went
Mm-hmm.
directly into courtrooms to see what was going on. So I think that speaks to, again, character and integrity on your part there. So thank you for explaining that too, because that's important, and that also will pique the minds of some other people that probably didn't think probate judge or probate court could affect them. And when you
Right.
said went through those other things, I thought of names and people and couples
Right.
that all
Right.
those things affected. So
Right.
thank you so much for sharing that. So now that question, why Judge Everett Wess? Why should I vote for Judge Everett Wess?
Well, number one, I'm one of the probate judge place one candidate that have more than 6 years of experience already as a judge. And I've had some positive experiences there in dealing with defendants and the prosecutors and the lawyers and the clerks. So I have experience. I think I've done a good job. I get positive feedback from the job that I do there. And I think I will carry the mindset that I have with the city of Midgefield into probate court. Just really treating people fairly, caring about people, listening, and just trying to make the right decision, even though some individuals may disagree, but make the right decision based on the law. Uh, I have more than 23 years of experience. Most of the candidates running for place one, I think one lady's been a lawyer for 6 years, one couple of them for maybe 10 years. So I have more probate law experience. Uh, I think I have life experience. I explained that this is my second career. I have a technology degree, business degree, law degree. We have computers in the courtroom. I want to try to work and use my knowledge in technology to make things more efficient and probate court and bring in technology that's user friendly for the clerks, that's user friendly for the lawyers, that's user friendly for the public, uh, uh, and have individuals that can help the public use our technology with ease, when that is needed. Uh, the business background, there's a lot of accounting that occurs in probate court, debits and credits, and keeping up with assets and bank accounts and real property and dividing it appropriately. Uh, and I have a law degree, of course, and then just life experience. I have two children of my own, and now I have six grandchildren, and I think all of that bodes well, for being the next probate judge and being a candidate who's right for that position. Life experience, educational experience, work experience, uh, uh, and even with that, I'll take my time and try to make sure that I understand what needs to be done in probate court. And I think a good example was going to the training class for the poll workers and the clerks who are going to be there handling our election on election day, March the 5th, Tuesday of next week.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So for that person that wants to find out more about you, what you do, and even how to stay in connection with you beyond next Tuesday, and to see what you do, how can someone find out more of information about you or how to reach out or contact you?
Well, I have a website, judgeeverettwess.com, and I'll send that to you, judgeeverettwess.com. And I also have a campaign Facebook page, my regular Facebook page, which shows the events that I've been attending throughout this campaign. And then my office number here is area code 205-251-9372. So those are some ways to get in touch with me.
Awesome. Brother Judge Everett Wess, I just want to say thank you for your time. I know that the work doesn't stop. I know that you're busy.
Do you have a last? Do you have a last will and testament?
I do. I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So that's one of the things where I love that you brought that up, and so I'm so excited to see what comes from everything that you're doing, and again, that impact that you're making for the community. So thank you so much. Listen, to everyone watching this, make sure there's going to be information in the description below on how to find out more of what Judge Wess is doing and to support as well. That I'm going to give a urge to all the blue and white family to look into Brother Judge Wess, and support, and for everyone out there to find out more of how you can stay engaged. So again, Judge Everett Wess, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate your time. Any last thing that you want to leave with the people?
Oh, yes. On March 5th, check yes for West and be blessed.
Ah,
Thank you so much. Thank you for
love
this
it.
interview, brother.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in to another impactful conversation. And we'll see you next time. Peace.